Thank you so much for joining me today. Your time is precious, and I deeply appreciate that you're here listening in. Imagine this: a moment when you made a snap decision, assumed something without thinking, or judged someone based on a gut feeling. And later you wondered, why did I do that? Was that the right call? That kind of moment is exactly where Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman shines a light. We're going to journey into the core ideas, lessons, and profound insights from this book, unpacking each nugget of wisdom. I want this to feel like a conversation between us, not a lecture. So I'll tell stories, dig into experiments, reveal the surprises, and show you how to apply what Kahneman teaches into your everyday life. By the end, you'll see your own thinking in a new light, catch the traps your mind lays for you, and have tools to think more wisely. Let me start with the foundation. Kahneman frames human thought into two systems, which he calls System 1 and System 2. System 1 is fast, intuitive, automatic. It's what leaps to mind without effort. It's your snap judgments, your first impressions, your gut feelings. System 2 is slow, deliberate, effortful. It's the part of your mind you recruit when you think deeply, calculate, analyze, double-check. Most of us like to believe we are mostly System 2 thinkers, rational, deliberate, but in fact, most of our mental life runs on System 1 as the default. Kahneman shows us how System 1 is indispensable. We couldn't function without it, but also fallible, and that our rational self, System 2, doesn't always step in when it should. This dual system model is the lens through which all the biases, heuristics, and surprises in the book are revealed. One lesson he presses is that System 2 is lazy. It doesn't like to exert effort. When System 1 offers up an answer, even if imperfect, System 2 often accepts it without challenge. That tendency is what allows cognitive biases to slip in unnoticed. For example, Kahneman describes how when people answer hard questions, System 1 often replaces the difficult question with an easier one and then answers that instead. That's called substitution. We rarely notice because our brain wants things smooth, fast, and comfortable. But those shortcuts lead to systematic errors, especially when stakes are higher. He explores many heuristics and biases that emerge from this interplay. Anchoring is one. When you hear a number first, it becomes a reference point that colors your judgment, even if it's irrelevant. For instance, if someone offers a high starting price, your sense of what's fair or what you'll accept shifts because your mind anchors on that first figure. Another is the availability heuristic. We judge the likelihood of events by how easily examples come to mind. If we hear many stories about plane crashes, we'll overestimate their danger because they stay vivid in memory. Linked to that is the idea of the availability cascade. Something repeated often becomes more real in our minds, even if it's statistically rare. Another big lesson is the law of small numbers. People exaggerate how representative a small sample is of the whole. We jump to conclusions based on a few data points, thinking they reflect broader truth when they might just be noise. That leads into the idea of regression to the mean. If someone or something performs extremely well or poorly in one period, it's likely to move closer to average in the next period. But System 1 struggles with that concept. It expects patterns and continuation, and we fall prey to illusions of trend. Kahneman teaches us about framing. How you present choices matters. Two options that are essentially the same in outcome can feel entirely different depending on their framing: gain versus loss, risk versus certainty. Because we are loss-averse, we feel losses more intensely than equivalent gains. The framing effect can push us into irrational decisions. He builds on this with prospect theory, which shows that people don't maximize utility in classical economic sense. Rather, we evaluate decisions relative to reference points, fear losses more than we value gains, and overweight small probabilities. That theory challenged long-standing economic assumptions and earned Kahneman a Nobel Prize. He examines overconfidence, the illusion of understanding, and hindsight bias, We overestimate how much we know, how predictable things are, and underappreciate chance. We like stories that make sense after the fact, so we reconstruct narratives that make events seem inevitable, rather than appreciating uncertainty and randomness. The illusion of validity is the stubborn belief that our predictions are reliable even when they're not. Our mind latches onto coherence, narrative, and pattern, even when those are misleading. One of the most powerful ideas is the contrast between the experiencing self and the remembering self. Our memory of an event is not the same as the event itself. We remember peaks and endings most, and often disregard duration. So two experiences of equal sum total can be judged differently simply based on the peak intensity or how they end. That has profound implications. We make decisions not for maximum happiness in the moment, but to optimize how we'll remember things. We seek memorable moments. Kahneman calls attention to how memory, narrative, and experience diverge. Throughout the book, Kahneman peppers experiments, puzzles of cognitive psychology, clever statistical tricks, and real-world applications. One famous example is the bat and ball problem. A bat and a ball cost $1.10 total. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. What is the ball's price? Many immediately answer 10 cents, but that's wrong. The correct answer is 5 cents. Bat equals $1.05. Ball equals 5 cents. The erroneous instinctive answer comes from System 1 offering an easy but incorrect computation, while System 2 must intervene to correct it. We see how easy it is to slip into error when we don't slow down. Another example is the inside versus outside view of forecasting. Teams asked to estimate how long a project will take often look internally, resources, tasks, and predict optimistically. But when asked to look at the history of similar projects, the outside view, they see far longer average timelines and failure rates. People neglect base rates, the statistical background. Kahneman warns against what you see is all there is bias, WISITI. Our tendency to ignore information we don't have, only reasoning from the visible. He also warns about the halo effect, how one positive trait, like being likable, spills over and biases perception of other traits, intelligence, trustworthiness. Emotions, associative thinking, and overgeneralization distort judgment. Cognitive ease is another subtle trap. When things feel easy or familiar, we tend to trust them more, less critically. That's why repetition is so persuasive even without substance. As we move beyond biases, Kahneman tackles decision-making and choice. He discusses that we tend to treat problems in isolation, ignoring how they connect, neglecting hidden correlations, and failing to consider overall policy. He argues for adopting a decision policy. Create rules that guard against emotional impulses. For example, when facing many small decisions, set a threshold or decision rule so you're not constantly draining System 2. He encourages designing decision environments that nudge better behavior. He also explores the notion of broad framing, seeing the bigger picture rather than just the immediate choice in front of you. When it comes to happiness and well-being, Kahneman draws a distinction between what he terms experienced utility, how good or bad you feel in the moment, and remembered utility, how you recall an experience. He shows how memory, not actual moment-to-moment pleasure, often drives choices. That's why two vacations with equal time might be judged differently if one ends poorly. He emphasizes that our life decisions often aim to optimize what we will remember. There are many more lessons, but I want to underscore how these ideas shift how you see your own mind. First, awareness is power. Once you see the System 1/System 2 dichotomy and know the biases lurking in your gut, you can pause. Ask yourself, am I jumping too fast? Am I substituting an easier question? Am I falling prey to anchoring or availability? You can train your System 2 to intervene, even if lazily, when you sense warning signs. Second, you can design your decision environment. Set policies, use checklists, import statistical thinking, base rates. Frame your choices deliberately. Slow down when stakes are high. Ignore story illusions. Third, you can recalibrate your expectations about happiness. Realize memories matter more than duration, and design experiences accordingly. If you carry one lesson from thinking fast and slow forward, let it be this. Your mind is a beautifully efficient machine, but it's not perfect. The faster it works, the more likely it may mislead you. The challenge is to know when to trust intuition and when to slow down and reflect. You don't have to distrust yourself entirely. Instead, give yourself more space, add mental checks, build habits of deliberate thought. Over time, you'll catch more of the errors your mind whispers to you. Minimize regret, make wiser decisions, and live in harmony with your own dual thinking. Thank you so much for staying with me through this exploration. If you found value in this video, please like, share, and comment below with your thoughts or takeaways. I'd love to hear how thinking fast and slow has impacted you.